All right, so we're just starting a recording again. Briefly chatted with Megan. Megan was also one of the residents at the Ark. So what we're doing is we're getting everyone's testimonies just on record. We want everyone on record. So in a court of law, everyone has a record that has been established that they have said out of their own mouths and they've given their own testimonies. And so we're going to call Megan right now and ask her about getting to the Ark and what her experience it was. So I'm calling her right now. All right, so here we go.
Hello.
Hey, Megan, it's Jonny. I'm here with Zach and Cory and Dave the Wave.
Yep.
Hey, you got a minute?
Yes, yes.
All right, so listen, I told you I just wanted to, get you on record. The people that were living at the Ark, we're trying to build a picture from the actual residents, not what Jim and Karen say, because what Jim and Karen say is very contradictory to pretty much every single person that lived there. So we just want to get you on record, and you're okay with us tape recording this, yes?
Yes.
And you're aware that we can use this in a court of law, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So anyway, so I just want to start with, first of all, the first contact with me and how I, intersected y'all's world. Could you just tell everybody just basically that, what you know?
Yes. So my mom and sister and I were living in our car about 3 months. In a short time in hotel rooms.
Okay, so where were y'all living in your car? Like what state, whatever?
Florida at the time.
So y'all were in Florida and you and your mom and your sister were living in your car, your mom's car. Okay. All right.
And she had reached out to you through PayPal, sending you $5 along with a note about her situation.
Right. I remember reading the note. Yep.
Yes. And she left you her phone number, and you had called us shortly after.
Mm-hmm.
You talked to us over the phone about our situation, and you had ended up sending us $4,000 to get back on our feet and hopefully find an apartment.
Can you say that again? So after our first phone call, correct? I sent you what?
$4,000.
So I sent you 4,000. That's right. I sent your mom $4,000. I think I had to send it to PayPal, maybe to you for her. Does that sound right or no?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think that is correct.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, well, the only thing I knew to do was try and send y'all a PayPal when I found out you and your sister and your mom were actually living out of your car. So I was like, okay, well, and as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, I said, well, this hopefully is enough money for you guys, to at least get in a place and get a job and get established to try and get on your feet. Does that sound right?
Yes, it does.
All right, and so then after that, what happened?
Well, she received the money, but she did not manage it very well. For about a month, she ended up spending it on remaining in a hotel room. She called you, somehow you had gotten in contact with her again, or she had called you.
Yeah, I think she reached out again through maybe PayPal or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember myself exactly, but yeah, she got back in touch with me and let me know that she was out of money, and I was pretty shocked about how quickly she had burned through the $4,000.
All right.
Does that sound right? Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay, so then at that point, so now I'm going to give my testimony. I remember telling your mom, I'm like, look, I sent you $4,000. It's a lot of money. I just can't do that again. So I don't know what you're expecting me to do, but the best I can do is there's a place called the Ark by Houston that this guy Jim Sullivan started, and I could check and see if there's room for you guys. Does that sound? Can you just speak to that, maybe?
Yes, that sounds accurate.
Okay, so did your mom let you know that, or I mean, how do you know that's accurate?
We were on speakerphone.
Oh, I got it. That's right. I remember. That's right. We were on speakerphone. So then I sent you because y'all were in Florida, but I said I can send you enough money. I think y'all had a car problem a little bit too, or something, as I recall. And I said, look, I can send you $1,500, but that's going to have to get you to Houston. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So that means I sent you a total of $5,500 basically within a little over a month, I think it was. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay, and so from that point, you guys made it. Y'all made it to. I think you showed up at Beach City, yes, or where did you show up? Where did you show up?
We showed up at the Beach City location, Karen's mother's property.
I gotcha. And so, did y'all? Is that where you originally moved in?
Yes, the trailer was parked in their backyard.
Okay, so one of the trailers that Ryan had bought for the whole thing. So one of my subscribers named Ryan, a super nice guy, he had donated 2 trailers to the Ark, and he had said, here's extra living. And one of those trailers was taken by Jim and company. And when I say in company, I mean in his wife. And their decision was to put it in the backyard of Karen's mom's property in Beach City. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then what? Y'all moved in there or what?
Yes. So we were there for about a month. My mom's behavior wasn't really working with everybody because she would do a lot of venting, there's just a lot of negativity that would come from her.
Right. I remember getting some phone calls into she was very negatively affecting some of the other people that were there. And so then at that point, well, let me ask you this. So when you were there, money wise, where did you get any money from? Did you?
Only from you.
So do you know this to be true that I was giving money to almost every resident at the Ark?
Yes. That's what I've heard, yes.
So the people that were actually the tenants of Jim and Karen, they were receiving monies from me for their own food and those type things. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you and your mother as well.
Yes.
So I continue.
I did have a little online business thing where I'd make like 20 here or there just with artwork.
Right. But
Yeah.
I would try and supply your needs for food and those type things, but you had a roof over your head was the goal, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then you guys were there and Jim and Karen's were living in Beat City at Karen's mom's place, which was previously a gun store and a massage parlor. And they put the trailer in the backyard and you guys were living there in the trailer that Ryan had bought. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so then your mom wasn't really getting along with everybody, so it caused some flack. So what happened from there?
One day my mom and I had walked in. We were just gonna, hang out with Karen and Jim and everybody that was sitting out in their living room. And we walked in on a conversation of them talking about my mom behind her back. Then she started feeling like, oh, great, I can't trust these people either. But Karen was regularly talking about any of the tenants behind their backs.
So that was a normal thing that you observed?
Yes.
So you're just, you're just telling everybody that Karen regularly would speak about tenants behind their back?
Yes. I'm not on a daily basis, but yes.
But it was something you observed.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so what happened with you and your mom then from that point? You were living in the backyard in Beach City, not the Ark out in the woods. But then once that kind of got to the point where they didn't want you there, then what? They didn't want your mom there, I should say.
Right. So it was about a month of us since we've been in the backyard. And one morning, my mom received a text from Karen saying something like, "Good news, your trailer is officially going to be moved to the Ark." That hurt her. She felt betrayed by that. She already knew that they were talking behind her back. So they moved us out there. They were getting the trailer set up at the Ark. Jim accidentally burnt out a fuse in the trailer by putting the wrong type in.
I remember that. I heard about it. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, and I believe it was that same day my mom had enough. She said, "I'm leaving." I could not understand why on earth she would do that. The Lord had just given us a place to live, put us around people who knew the Lord. I was very taken aback, but I was not going to follow her. not this time. I was not gonna.
So you weren't. So your mom said she's kind of, like, I've had enough. I want out. But you had landed at a place where you felt like you wanted to stay for a while.
Yes, absolutely.
Tired of going around sleeping in the car, that type thing.
Not so much that. I knew I belonged here. I was with people who also knew the Lord, and that's where I knew the Lord put us, or at least me.
Okay, I got you. So everything came to a culmination, and there was a day that I've heard about from Alex. I've heard about it from Zach, and when your mom was asked to leave that particular day, can you just tell everybody what the general circumstances were on that?
Yes. So she just told me that she was leaving. I was helping her pack up. She was offended by that, but she ended up going back in the trailer and just crying in there in the dark for a while, not understanding why everybody's against her now. And I was sitting with Jim, talking with him and talking with you over the phone, and it just ended up being where she needed to leave. That was the decision.
Okay.
I was told by Alex that he had a gun on him at the time.
Who had a gun on him? Wait, slow down. So you were told by Alex who had a gun on them at the time?
Jim Sullivan had a gun on him.
When you say had a gun on him, he was carrying a weapon on him?
Yes.
Like, what kind of weapon, do you know?
No, just a gun. Not sure what.
Okay, so Zach's sitting right here, and Zach was an eyewitness. Yes, this is not hearsay. You were an eyewitness, Zach?
Yeah, that's right. I was there the day, and I do recall the RV had a fuse blown, and Kelly, Megan, your mom, slept in the dark that night in the RV. Um, and so she slept there. And the next morning, Jim came in from the Beach City location in his white truck. Came in, popped out the truck, and was there to escort your mother off of the property. And when Jim got out of the car, he had a gun on his shoulder holster. He had a pistol actually on his side, and yeah, so he just escorted her off the property.
Well, I understood from Alex that he was yelling to everybody, "Get back," because he was going to go in the trailer. Is that right?
Yeah, so Alex and I actually went outside, and we were on the upstairs balcony of the cabin, and Jim from the ground floor was telling us to go back inside, and he was just super frantic and being very weird, just like he was frantic and he had a gun on his side like it was some big military operation or something going on. We're like, dude, what's going on? And he just commanded that we went back inside, and eventually we did, because your mom was being compliant. She's like, whatever, I'm out of here anyway. And
Okay, go ahead.
no, that's about it. I mean,
Okay, so
yeah.
I want to jump in. Hey, real quick, what do you think your mom's age was back then, more or less? You don't have to give us exact, but that was a couple years ago. So how old is she now? And we can do.
Yeah, I want to say she was 50, 51.
So she's about, okay, in her 50s, right? We'll say more or less 50. All right. So is your mom a threatening person? Is she a violent person?
No, she's not.
Could you speak up a little louder to the phone? Because we can't. You need to speak a little louder. You're breaking up.
She's not. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
She's not an aggressive person. She's timid and just negative with her words,
but she's kind of a timid, mousy person. Is that inaccurate?
Absolutely.
And she's teeny tiny. She's small.
So she's not a very big, threatening person.
No.
Okay, but Zach, you were an eyewitness to Jim pulling up with the sidearm on him and telling everybody, "Get out of the way."
Oh yeah, he came in hot too. I mean, what I mean by that is like he came in hot, like he came in quickly. Yeah, quickly.
Yeah, he came in fast, and and Alex told me he was like demanding that everyone go in the house, because he was going to go in the trailer and force your mom out, and he was carrying a weapon.
Yep.
Okay, so your mom left the property at that point, and then you remained behind there, and you were able to relocate back to Beach City. Does that sound right?
Yes. That night, Jim drove me back at drove me back to Beach City.
Okay.
Karen and Jim told me that I would be staying upstairs on their side of the house from now on. That's where I would be living.
Okay.
Instead of in a trailer.
Okay.
And that's where I remained.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. Had you ever held an AR rifle in your life before you met the Sullivans or no?
No.
Had you had any weapon experience before you met the Sullivans?
No.
Did Jim make you an AR?
Yes.
So Jim made you your own AR, like a rifle, yes?
Yes.
Of-
It was Karen that said, "Do you want him to make you one?" Because we were talking about guns that day.
So Karen actually initiated it.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, so Karen said, "Hey, you want an AR?"
Yes. You want Jim to make you one?
Okay, for the record, I would like to just state right now in front of Cory and in front of Zach and myself, it was a common thing for Jim to say, "Hey, I made an AR and I gave it to whether or not it was Cory or whether or not it was you or and whether or not it was him trying to make one and give one to me because he needed personal money." But after he made one, he would let me know, "Well, I made one, like, hey, you want to give me some money for that?" Because that was a normal thing I saw. I was like, that was one of his ways to try and generate what he called personal income because he had all these weapons parts from his gun store and he just wanted to make some ARs and get some money out of the parts. Does that sound like anything you'd know about or no?
That's what I've heard.
Okay. So he made you an AR though. You did get your own AR.
Yes.
Do you still have it?
Yes.
Okay, so you have the AR that he made for you.
That's right.
All right. Good enough. And before then, had you had any weapon experience in your life whatsoever?
No, none.
Zero. Okay. But Jim had a shooting range out at the Ark. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And it was like, so were you in a meeting there in Beach City where Jim had told everybody that he was concerned about civil unrest and vaccine people showing up and forcing vaccines on you?
I don't remember, honestly.
You don't remember? Do you remember me showing up and having a meeting in what y'all call the community center where we discussed that very thing? Or no? Okay, well that's fine. No, if you don't remember, you don't remember. Okay, you may not have been there. I don't recall. But anyway, all right. Well, is there anything else you want to say? This is your testimony. It is a recorded testimony, and I'm just trying to get everyone's story. I just want everyone to give their own story because apparently Jim and Karen are painting Dave the Wave to be a liar and Cory and Zach to be less than honest, reputable people. They're the same with Eric and Susie. I'm the number one big evil bad wolf. And I'm just trying to make sure I have a record of y'all's point of view. What happened as a tent? Did you see me there? I mean, did I live at the Ark?
No, you didn't live there.
So
To work on the art building.
so you would see me when?
It wasn't too often. You came for holidays, and then you started coming more frequently to work on the building.
To improve their property out.
Yes, that's right.
So when I was there, I basically was working, improving their property. Did you know it to be a common thing for me to show up and just pass out money to tenants?
Yes.
So if I showed up, it usually meant Jonny was probably going to pass out some money just to make sure everybody had what they needed.
Yes.
Yeah. Did Jim and Karen ever give you money or no?
Only $100 that I found. Okay, so there in the trailer that we moved into, underneath the mattress, there's $100 bill. I believe I told Jim about it, or maybe my mom told Jim about it, and he told me to keep it because I had found it.
Okay, so that's the only money they ever gave you.
I'm trying to think.
So
I'm remembering.
yeah, but it wasn't like normal for them to hand out money to anyone that you knew about, yes or no?
Not at all. Not that I've heard.
Okay, but it was normal for me to give. Did I help relocate you as well as Eric and Susie, Dave the Wave, and you, and then help with Alex and Alyssa and their children? Do you know that I was involved in relocating you?
Yes, absolutely.
And have I helped you guys financially since y'all have been out of the Ark?
Yes, sir. Definitely.
So I've helped you as well financially to make sure all your needs are met.
Yes.
Did Jim or Karen ever offer you say, "Hey, I'm going to give you $5,000 to help relocate"?
No.
So you never heard anything like that. Zach and I were on a phone call with Chuck and Kathy. Well, I'm sorry, I was on the phone call with Chuck, but I assumed Kathy was listening right over his shoulder by the things that he said. And he said, "Well, Jonny, Jim and Karen said they're going to give it. They told everybody, told all the tenants they were going to give them $5,000." Zach, did you hear that?
Yep.
Okay. So you never got any money from those guys, like $5,000 to relocate, did you?
No way.
Okay. All right. So that's your testimony. Anything else before I just wrap this up? I'm going to allow this to be public. I have your permission.
Yes.
All right. Very good. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much just for, being frank and honest. That's it. That's all we're doing. I just want everyone, Megan, I just want everyone to tell their story, because Jim and Karen try and paint everyone as the bad guy but them. It's fascinating because everyone's the bad guy except Jim and Karen. And Kathy and Chuck, they're the good guys, and Jim and Karen, they're the good guys. Even though Chuck has railed about what a bad guy Jim is to several people, even a police officer, former police officer, Shannon, he went off, and I heard the stories about that. But anyway, that might be hearsay. I'd have to get her in to say that, although Jack Lamb has already given his testimony to that, so it's not hearsay. All right. All right. So there it is. This is Megan. Megan, have you ever known me to be a violent person or mean or hateful?
No, not at all.
Have you ever known me to be satanic in any way, shape, or form?
No.
Is my number one concern everybody's best interest, best well-being?
Yes, 100%.
When you were there and you saw Karen Sullivan, when you showed up, did she look well to you?
Yes, you did.
Was she out mowing lawns and dragging trees and those type things?
Mowing lawn, yes, I've seen her do that.
Okay, yeah. Out at the ark, I saw her dragging a huge tree trunk.
Peter hog logs.
Dragging
Logs.
Yeah, she was dragging big logs. And so did she seem pretty well and robust?
Yes.
She did, right?
Mm-hmm. Always ready to work.
Always ready to get out there and do something because she felt pretty good. Okay. All right. That's all. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. I love you in Christ, Megan. Take care.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so there we go. Just wrapping that. That's Megan Cunningham. That's her testimony, and she was a tenant at the Ark. Everyone as well. So everyone that's given their testimony that lives at the Ark has a similar story. And that Jim and Karen like to vilify everybody. Cory, is that right?
Absolutely.
Did they vilify you?
Oh yeah, just there was lots of times where, especially towards the end of my stay there, because they had 3 suites in the building, and it got to the point where, we lived in the far right suite as you're facing the building walking in, and they sat opposite of each other in chairs, and in order to get to my room, you had to walk in between them, and it always felt like I was being judged every single time I walked between them. And so, I started coming home a little bit later at night, and I actually, in order to get to my suite, which is in the far right building in the upstairs,
where Jim and Karen also lived.
I just, for my own peace, I started entering through the middle building just because I didn't want to have to deal with all the nonsense.
So
So
you yourself, you got so tired of their stuff and their weird behavior that you didn't even want to see them in person. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So you would just go another way in order to get to your room so you didn't have to even deal with them.
Yes.
Okay. Zach?
Yeah, I would frequently avoid them. I would actively avoid them. I mean, a lot of times was forced to have to spend a lot of time with Jim, not so much with Karen. And don't get me wrong, there were pleasant times I've spent with Jim and Karen, but after seeing their behavior after a prolonged period of time, it was to the point where it's like, no, I'm actively avoiding you guys, and that's a fact.
So that was common. Now people just like, I've had enough of these guys. I don't want to be around them.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. All right, Dave the Wave, does that sound same to you?
Yes.
Can you speak up a little louder?
Yeah. Yes.
So you actively tried to avoid them because they just gave you a bad vibe?
Not until after everything kind of fell out. So.
Okay, so Dave's just gonna walk around for just a minute. We're just gonna wrap this up in just a minute. So this is Dave. This is Dave Tinder, and so just a quick, wrap it up. Whatever you want to say, just say it.
Well, Cory and Zach had left and moved here, and we were at the Arc in Beach City. We were still trying to keep things pretty civil and friendly, and from like May, June, and July, after they had kind of fallen apart, we were doing these picnics about every other week where you go to a park and do a cookout. And we always invited Jim and Karen, but they would never show up.
So even after I had confronted Karen and all that stuff, and she had lied and been dishonest, you were aware that she had done these videos apologizing, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so, but you guys still tried to maintain the friendship and say, hey, we're having a get together. We're going to go to a park and cook out. And you invited them, but they never showed up?
Yeah. The first time that we did it was on Easter weekend. They showed up for about 45 minutes there. That was the only time.
Okay.
And then for about the next 3 months, they never showed up. But they were always invited. In fact, we always brought back food for their son. We always made sure everybody had food.
Right.
So we always took food over to them.
Did they ever make disparaging remarks about, food and like you going out to eat and how you were frivolous with going out to eat and getting massages? Does that
not to my face, but I had heard about it and then I had read it in a comment.
that Karen was saying how you were going out spending money for massages,
like splurging, going to movies and massages and.
But did you get any money from them whatsoever?
No.
Only from
Johnny.
From me. And
it wasn't like splurging. It was, I have a chronic swelling in my feet and ankles, and so I was going maybe once a month for therapy.
So they convoluted therapy on your
and it was
feet.
only like once a month, and it was like $35.
So once a month, maybe $35 to get your feet worked on because you have chronic issues with your legs.
And then
so they tried to make that look like it was something other than
like splurging and
living like the high life or something.
Yeah.
And then you were going. They also convoluted that you would go out to eat all the time, like you were just splurging. Is that?
Yeah, and that's no, because like once a week I'd try to go to a movie and I'd go to the matinee, so it was what, $5-6,
Right.
and then go for like fast food afterwards. So it wasn't like I was going to these high end restaurants either.
Because you didn't have enough money to go to high end restaurants. Right. Okay. Anyway, but she tried to paint a very different picture. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah.
So she maligned you.
Yeah, in the comment. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was out there in the comment section on other people's channels maligning you as well. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that seems to be a common pattern with her. She maligns everybody. It could never be her and Jim that's doing it, but it's everybody else.
Yeah, and in one of the comments, they even were spreading the lie that the residents of the Ark wanted nothing to do with them, and they were ousted. And that's totally the opposite, because they were invited like every other week when we go do these things.
Oh, I got you. So they were playing the poor, pitiful, we weren't allowed to, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all would invite them to go with you, but they wouldn't show up. Even though you'd bring food home for their child as well when y'all came back.
Yeah.
But they painted a picture that, y'all were stiff arming them, so to speak.
Yeah. In fact, I had seen Jim. They were living or spending time at her mother's house. They weren't sleeping as much at Beach City, and they had pulled in. And I walked over to Jim. I said, hey, this upcoming weekend or whatever, we're going to be doing another one of those, picnic things. If you guys want to go. And he says, thanks for the offer, but we're not coming. And
yeah. But they painted a very different picture online.
Yeah, that, they were basically ousted, and we nobody wanted anything to do with them. And that's
I see. It's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, because I always invited them to these picnics, and even other residents like Alex and Eric said, I wish they'd show up. It was a little bit awkward, and we just kind of wanted things to kind of get back to normalcy.
Right, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else while we're just wrapping this one up?
Just to tack on to, so Dave would always be responsible for sending the invites, and that was before, I believe, any of us were actively avoiding Jim and Karen. We would ask them to come hang out with us. I remember there was a time with Ryan, Alex, his kids, Ryan's kids, everyone was going to the beach. And we had asked Jim and Karen to go, and it was not only a big no from them, but I actually got in trouble for going to the beach by Jim. I got scolded for going to the beach with Alex and the kids and all. And
So, because is it fair to say that they would try and pit one person against the other as a normal routine?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So before, my point is, before I was actively avoiding these people, I would definitely encourage them, along with Dave, who was the primary person for sending invites. Yeah, I definitely encouraged them to come hang out with us, but they never did. And yeah, it did make it awkward. So anyway.
Okay, so there was a point to where they just were not responding in a friendly way anymore, and
Right.
then y'all were avoiding them because it was like too awkward.
Well, for me, the avoidance came from the litany of lies. They would constantly lie. And I even told Cory after a phone call with Jonny, yourself, Karen, and Jim, and we had a full phone call. And after the phone call, I looked at Cory and said, "Why do they just lie? They're just lying." And I was not saying anything like super publicly because I didn't want it to like get super awkward because I'm living at their house. But I was totally told Cory, I'm like, "Why do they just lie? Why are they allowed to do that?" Because I thought we were all following the same God and doing and telling the 100% truth.
Right. Okay, so that you saw that's okay, so there you
So
go.
between the abuse, the lies, and just the BS that came from them, I was like, yeah, enough's enough. I'm done with them.
All right, and so towards the end of the whole thing, I contacted Cory. I was like, Cory, come back and live at my house. And then I said, why don't you invite Zach to come? He can come live in my house as well. That's how you ended up here. Is that right?
That's correct.
Because you kind of needed a place to go.
I was leaving the ark one way or another, and just under some circumstances, I call it a miracle. But under some circumstances, I got invited to Jonathan's house, and yeah, I ended up coming here. But one way or another, I was going to leave. I was about ready to just take a couple things and my dog and just hit the road, just be homeless.
So you've been here for what?
A little over a year, I'd say, something like that. I'm not sure.
All right, so is being here okay?
Yeah, totally okay. It's awesome.
All right, there you go. Anybody
We're all
else?
friends. That's it.
No, I've been here for 3 years, over 3 years, except for the 3 or 4 months I stayed at the Ark, and you know I'm gonna give the Lord all the credit. But through Jonathan, he's always taken care of me. Yeah, I've worked and do, just like the Bible says, we work and do our thing. But always been blessed to be here, without a doubt. Got a front row seat to see probably. I've probably forgotten more miracles than people have probably seen. So
You've
huge
actually
blessing.
gotten to participate in several of those, like
Tons.
going over to Gallagher.
So
Yep. All right. Well, there it is. So that's the now, y'all, Dave. You were a resident invited by me to go there, and you stayed there. And once you got there, you remained there till the end. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then Cory, you went there for a few months before the whole get together night under the stars.
Mhm.
And when you got there, you had left here in San Antonio to go there for a while. But did you see that some things at the Ark and the Houston property that their Karen's mother owns? Were you telling me that some things were just not
yeah,
right?
they weren't really congruent with what this ministry represents.
Right.
This is
So
church.
there were some. I was like, okay, well, thanks for kind of keeping me in the loop. But I was starting to become like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, but and I kept a lot of stuff to myself it was probably through the Lord, I don't know. But anyways, because if a lot of this stuff would have went out to you, I don't know that we would have even gotten to the night under the stars.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Right. So, and I'm just going to jump in real quick because had I confronted them before the night under the stars, it never would have happened.
No.
But then after the night under the stars happened, that's when during sitting here in front of Cory, I just heard out of left field Jonathan Cullen confront Karen Sullivan, and you saw that, right? You
Absolutely, I was there.
okay, and then I did, and she lied several times, 3 times, and then I confronted her. I said I drew the line and said, Karen, I'm standing before the Lord God. I'm not telling you some human told me. I'm telling you the Lord God whom I serve told me you were speaking contemptuously, and I said, so it's a yes or no. And what did she do?
Yeah, she finally admitted it. But before that even happened, you prayed and asked the Lord, and then you opened up to the exact words.
Right. So I told you though, I said,
Yeah.
I was praying saying, Lord, I don't know what to do. I can't just call this person up, and I can't call this person up and just say, hey, the Lord told me you're speaking contemptuously, even though I heard it in my spirit very clearly.
Right.
And the Bible does say, my sheep hear my voice. And I said, wow, that's so weird. And I said it right in front of you, and I said, Lord, I can't do that. Is that correct, Cory?
That's correct.
And then I said, Lord, only if you can prove it like 100%. And in that very moment, I heard, open that book right there in front of you. I will show you. And so did I go around the corner to open that book, or did I open it right
Just
in front
right in front of me.
And I opened up Roget's thesaurus, and right there it said, speaking contemptuously. And I was like, oh, wow. Well, now I got to call her. So I called her up. And then she lied 3 times. And then when I just said, look, there's a line in the sand now. I'm standing before the Lord God. So yes or no? And did she giggle?
She did that giggle, and then she finally admitted it.
Yeah. And then
But it took.
It had to be pried out of her.
Right.
All right.
She
So,
just
and
came out.
that was the beginning of the end of everything at the Ark. Is that a fair statement?
Very fair statement.
And then she did several videos saying, oh, I started running Jonny down. What happened to those videos when I put them out on YouTube and other places?
And they got taken down.
Mysteriously, they were being taken down everywhere they got put.
But it started when you confronted him about
the
the
money.
chipping in comment. That's
Right,
when it
right.
started falling apart too,
Right,
You
because I
said-
had asked him, why are you asking people to chip in on y'all's bills when I pay all your bills? I didn't even know LaDonna was helping pay all their bills, so that's double dipping right there. And then why in the world were you asking tenants to pay the bills? Because the tenants were starting to tell me they were feeling like beggars instead of people that were supposed to be there with a roof over their head. Does that sound right, Dave?
Yeah, they never asked me that Eric and Susie had expressed that's how they were feeling it.
Because they were like, oh, we've got all this burden and people should really be chipping in with us, even though they were receiving all the bills paid from me. I found out LaDonna was sending them money on a monthly basis to the tune of $1,000 once or twice a month, as per LaDonna's testimony. And then they're trying to make the residents feel like beggars. I'm sorry. That's absurd, but that's what was going on.
But Jim and Karen weren't employed, so
Well, Jim and Karen had absolutely no source of income.
zero.
And they had already burned through their inheritance, which I believe was $3 million. And so here we are now, and Jim and Karen Sullivan have gone out after I was willing to relocate everybody. I was willing not to sue Karen's mother and drag all the properties and get discovery on everything, all the assets, so I could recover monies that other people had put out, myself had put out, and file a massive class action lawsuit to start recovering monies by putting liens on different properties. And I chose not to do that, to take the high road and say, you know what, y'all go your way, I'll go my way. And I relocated everybody, and everybody's in a place where they've been taken care of. But Jim and Karen and Kathy and Chuck and other people have been persistent in maligning me and trying to paint a picture of me that's untrue, and trying even to connect me to a kidnapping that is out in California, in which a guy named Richard Montbleu his life was taken over by a guy that alleges he was a collect follower, but he wasn't a collect follower. No. And even though Jim Sullivan had met that person, Jeff Pesca, at the Ark during the night under the stars, I never met him. Jim Sullivan met him during that get together. Jim never mentioned that while he was doing his video. Nope. About collect followers, where he puts on his artificial voice. High profile collect follower has recently taken over this other person's life and he's lost his children and everything. Why didn't Jim Sullivan simply tell people this guy Jeff Pesca, who was at the Ark during the night under the stars, has gone in and taken over this guy Richard Montbleu's life? Why didn't he just tell everybody? Because he knew him. That's crazy. Why wouldn't you come forward and just say that? But instead, he does some weird Jonathan Click followers video, because everything's coming out into the light now, and it stinks. Now, here's another thing I want to make a record of. One night sitting here where I sit and I do a lot of my computer stuff. my email started behaving very weirdly, and it was asking me, even though I typed in the correct email, to enter it again. And I was like, wait a minute. And it says, if you fail on this attempt, you're locked out. I'm like, weird. And so I typed it in exactly correct, and I made sure, because I looked at the characters, and I hit enter, and it said, now you must re-sign in, you must do all this, or you cannot get in your email. Well, I went to another computer that I had that's got a different internet connection, and I logged right into my email. Are y'all aware of that, Cory and Zach?
Yep.
Okay, that is the very night that I got a call from an alleged police officer from area code 512, that's part of the show notes, and he identified himself as, I believe, Nathaniel Sanchez. He said his badge number was whatever it was. It's all in the show notes. And he said, you need to come in Monday morning. We've had multiple complaints coming from your IP address. And then he gave my street address, but he gave it wrong. And then he said, you might want to write down this address for the police department when you come in and ask for me. And then he gave the address for the police department as being on Hudson Street. The police department is not on Hudson Street. We went and checked the address he gave. It used to be the projects on the east side. So now people are calling up, whether or not they're police or not, they're calling up giving an information saying that the police department is on Hudson Street. They said they're in the cybersecurity division. And the cybersecurity division is on Nueva Street. So now there's very peculiar things coming from Austin and those area codes which is where Donna Montbleu Bratton lives, which is Richard Montbleu's sister, who has been very vocal in the comment section of the Gene Rebel channel, along with the Sullivans. And by the way, Chuck and his wife, Kathy, have been in there also, leaving comments that are defamatory, they're slanderous, and libelous. And so now at this point, we've documented these things, we've documented the reports, we've documented these things from the people that lived at the Ark, and we have an overall picture that shows the same thing. Everybody has the same story basically about Jim and Karen, but Jim and Karen say that Jack Lamb's a liar, everyone's bad except for them. And so now that's where we're at. We just got Megan's testimony that her mother was removed by Jim carrying a weapon to go force a lady that's basically 50 years old and very petite and very non-aggressive. And he went in to force her out with a sidearm in order to make her get off his property. Okay. Now, does that sound true to you guys? As far as is there anything, I mean, we're required to speak 100% truth.
No.
Have I said anything in your estimation that's not correct?
No.
No, all true.
All right.
All true.
All right, there you go. Because, yep, when this goes to where it's going to go, we'll have to stand up for everything we said.
Yep.
All right, there it is. All right. Now we're going to conclude this interview, and that was an interview with Megan Cunningham, Zach Wentz, Cory Barbie, Dave Tinder, and Jonathan Kleck.
Yep.
All right.